Picture this. You're standing in a room full of the wealthiest people in the city. Chandeliers hanging overhead worth more than most people's cars. Photographers circling the crowd like they're hunting for trophies. And then, a kid in a white t-shirt, beat-up sneakers, and a drawstring bag walks through the front door like he owns the place. And one woman decides, right then and there, to make sure he knows he doesn't belong. 5 minutes later, her whole world flipped upside down. The venue alone cost $30,000 for a single night. Let that sink in. Not a week. Not a month.
What?
Single. The kind of money that doesn't just pay for a party, it pays for a statement. Everything inside that ballroom was designed to communicate one thing: we are not like you. The chandeliers were so heavy they groaned against the ceiling. The flower arrangements cost more than most people's monthly rent. Photographers wove through the crowd like sharks in open water, snapping every designer label, every gleaming watch, every strategically placed smile that said I belong here and you should know it. Outside, valets were sprinting between Teslas and G-Wagons like it was some kind of Olympic relay race. And this wasn't just any event. This was the Bellamy family wedding. Old money shaking hands with new money. Deals getting sealed behind champagne flutes. Connections getting locked in with firm handshakes while the DJ played something soft and expensive in the background. The kind of music that doesn't have a name, it just has a price point. Every single person in that room wore their wealth like armor. Every label, every accessory, every perfectly tailored jacket was a signal. The code. And if you knew the code, you were in. If you didn't, well, that's where tonight's story really begins. The security guard working the front entrance had been doing this for 11 years. 11 years of black tie galas, charity auctions, private celebrations, and corporate dinners where the appetizers cost more than his hourly rate. He knew the type. He could read a guest in under 3 seconds. The posture, the shoes, the way someone walked up to a door versus the way someone approached one. There's a difference, and he trained himself to feel it instinctively. So when the kid walked up at 8:47 p.m., the guard's hand moved before his brain even caught up with it. White t-shirt, plain dark jeans, beat-up Nikes that had clearly seen better days, maybe a lot of better days. No watch, no chain, no design or anything. Just a small drawstring bag slung over one shoulder, the kind you'd bring to a gym, not a $30,000 ballroom. The guard stepped forward and blocked the entrance without making it obvious. Years of practice. "Who are you here for?" he asked. The kid looked at him. No panic. No apology. No nervous smile or over-explanation. Just calm. Completely, unbothered calm. "Bellamy wedding," he said. The guard stared. The kid stared back. There were 200 people trying to funnel through that door, and the guard didn't have time for a full interrogation. He stepped aside and let him pass, already mentally rehearsing how he'd explain it to the wedding coordinator if something went sideways. The kid walked in. His name was Jordan Calloway. And the moment he crossed that threshold, the room noticed him. Not warmly, not with curiosity or welcome. The room noticed him the way a system detects an anomaly. People didn't stop talking about him. They talked at him, quietly, in that specific way people do when they want you to know you're being discussed but can't give you anything to prove it. Is he lost? Maybe he's one of the servers. Check for a badge. No badge. He came in through the front. Someone should say something. Jordan heard the fragments. He always did. He walked to the far end of the room, near the floor-to-ceiling window that looked out over the city skyline, and he stood there. Alone. Back straight. Expression still. He wasn't performing calm, he was calm. And somehow, that made the people around him more uncomfortable than anything else he could have done. There's something deeply unsettling to certain people about someone who isn't rattled by their disapproval. That's when Kayla Bellamy spotted him from across the room. She was the bride's younger sister, and she was stunning in a way she was fully aware of and used with precision. Red silk dress. Hair blown out to absolute perfection. Nails that matched her shoes that matched her bag in a way that took real effort and real money to pull off. She'd been laughing with 2 of her friends about something, holding a champagne flute she'd barely touched because she was counting calories at events like this, when she caught sight of Jordan by the window and stopped mid-sentence. "Who is that?" she said. Not as a question. More like an announcement. Her friend Brianna squinted across the room. He came through the front door. I saw him. And just like that, the look on Kayla's face shifted. It wasn't anger yet. It was something colder, more deliberate. Amusement. She handed Brianna her champagne glass. She straightened up. And she walked over. Jordan saw her coming. He didn't move. She stopped 2 feet in front of him like she personally owned the floor between them, which, technically, her family had rented for the evening. Her voice when she spoke was pleasant. The kind of pleasant that has teeth hiding behind it. Can I ask what you're doing over here? Attending the wedding, Jordan said. Kayla tilted her head. Attending. She let the word sit there for a second like it needed to be examined. Then her eyes dropped slowly, shoes, jeans, shirt, and back up again. She let the assessment last exactly long enough for him to feel every second of it. Okay, she said, drawing the word out. I'm not going to be mean about this. And that right there, that sentence, was already the meanest possible way to start what she was about to say. But this is a private event, and I need you to show me your invitation, because I've never seen you before in my life. I don't have a printed invite, Jordan said. I was called directly. Kayla laughed. Just a quick one, sharp and involuntary, like she genuinely couldn't hold it in. She glanced back at Brianna and their other friend Jade, who had drifted closer, drawn by the social gravity of a scene unfolding. He was called directly, she repeated, dropping her voice into a register that turned the words into a punchline. Jade covered her mouth. Brianna her head slowly, the way you do when you're watching something secondhand embarrassing and you're relieved it isn't happening to you. Jordan said nothing. Kayla turned back to him. Her voice softened this time, not into kindness, but into the specific tone people use when they think they're doing someone a favor by being condescending. This is a Bellamy family event. Do you understand what that means? Do you know whose wedding this is? Marcus Bellamy's daughter, Jordan said. Priya. She's marrying Trent Hollis. They met at Columbia. He proposed in Iceland. The smile flickered. Just for a fraction of a second, but it happened. You probably read that online, she said. I didn't. Then who invited you? Jordan looked at her for a moment. Trent. The smile came roaring back, bigger now, sharper, more dangerous. I'm calling Trent over right now and we are going to sort this out, because I think you walked into the wrong venue, or the wrong city, or something. She pulled out her phone. Jordan watched her. And he waited. Now, Trent Hollis was 29 years old. Broad-shouldered, good-looking in the specific way of someone who grew up with access to personal trainers and good dental care. He was currently posing for photos with Priya's grandmother across the room when his phone buzzed. He looked at the message. Read it twice. Then he smiled, not a polite smile, a genuine one, handed the grandmother his champagne glass, and cut straight across the room. Jordan had turned back toward the skyline when he heard the footsteps. Then a voice. Calloway. Turned. Trent was already closing the distance with his arms wide open. He covered the floor in about 4 seconds, grabbed Jordan by both shoulders, and pulled him into a hug that lasted long enough for everyone nearby to see exactly what it was. I've been looking all over this place for you, man. Why didn't you text me when you got here? Didn't want to bother you on your night, Jordan said. Trent pulled back and looked at him like he just said something absurd. Are you serious right now? You fly all the way from Portland and you're standing alone by the window? Come on. The room had gone quiet in a spreading circle around them. The way sound drops when something important is happening, even if nobody can name what it is yet. Kayla stood exactly where she'd been standing. She hadn't moved. Her phone was still in her hand. The message she'd sent Trent sat there, already answered by the fact that he was currently hugging the guy she'd just publicly dismissed. Trent noticed her. He noticed her expression. Did something happen? He asked. No, Jordan said immediately. No, Kayla echoed half a beat later. Trent looked between them. He wasn't stupid. But tonight wasn't the night for it. Come meet Priya's dad, he said to Jordan, putting a hand on his back. He's been asking about you. They walked away together. The crowd shifted to let them through without meaning to, That instinctive physical deference that happens around people who clearly belong together. Kayla stood there. And then Brianna appeared at her side. "Do you know who that is?" Brianna asked. "No," Kayla said quietly. "I just asked one of the coordinators." Brianna paused the way people do when they're about to deliver information that's going to hurt. "Jordan Calloway. As in, Calloway Group Calloway." Kayla felt something drop in her chest. "Say that again." "His father is Derek Calloway." "Like the Derek Calloway." Kayla said nothing. She knew that name. Everyone in that room knew that name. Derek Calloway didn't run a company. He ran an entire industry. Phils. Tech infrastructure. Media. 3 consecutive years on the Forbes list. The kind of wealth that doesn't announce itself at parties because it doesn't need to. The kind of wealth that is the party. "His son," Kayla whispered. "His only son," Brianna said. It took 17 minutes for the energy in the room to completely rearrange itself. Word traveled the way it always does at events like this, fast, in whispers dressed up as concern. "Did you hear about that kid in the white shirt? Derek Calloway's." She didn't know. Right to his face. By the time Derek Calloway himself walked through the front entrance at 9:15, the room was already rebuilding itself around the new information. He came in without fanfare. That was the thing people always said about him, especially those who'd never met him before. You expected someone who looked like his bank account. What you got was a man in a clean gray blazer, salt and pepper hair, quiet eyes, and the kind of stillness that made a room feel slightly calmer when he entered it. No entourage. No spectacle. Just presence. Marcus Bellamy met him at the door and shook his hand for a long time. Derek scanned the room. His eyes found Jordan in under 10 seconds. He moved toward his son without stopping to make small talk, without pausing to accept the champagne someone tried to press into his hand, without slowing down for anyone. He put his hand on the back of Jordan's neck, the way fathers do when words aren't enough, and he said, "You should have told me you were already here." "I was fine," Jordan said. "I know you were." Marcus Bellamy stood nearby watching this exchange. You could see it happen in real time, the recalibration. The quiet, private adjustment of having misjudged something and trying to correct your read on it without anyone noticing. Kayla had been watching from across the room. She watched Derek Calloway walk in a straight line to the kid she'd laughed at 20 minutes ago. She watched the way Derek touched his shoulder, not for show, just for him. She watched the subtle way the whole room tilted slightly in their direction, like a compass needle finding north. And she understood now what she hadn't understood before. But more than that, more than the embarrassment, more than the social arithmetic of who this kid turned out to be, she understood what she had done. Not what it cost her. What it was. She'd had 2 champagnes and she hadn't touched either one. The red silk dress felt too bright. The room felt too loud. She found a quiet corner near the coat check and stood there by herself. Brianna tried to follow. Kayla waved her off. She needed a minute. Here's the thing about Kayla Bellamy that matters. She wasn't a cruel person by nature. Not even close. She was actually quite thoughtful. She read. She volunteered twice a month at a youth center in Midtown. She had real opinions about things that actually mattered. But she had grown up in rooms exactly like this one. And in rooms like this one, you learn fast. Not maliciously, just quietly, the way you absorb anything you're surrounded by long enough. That appearance is information. What you wear tells people who you are. That's not vanity. That's just how it works. That's the code. Except it isn't. She knew that. She'd known it for years. She'd just forgotten it tonight. Standing by the coat check, a decision arrived. Not like a light turning on. More like a weight dropping. Sudden. Irreversible. She was going to go over there and say it out loud. Not because it would fix anything, it wouldn't. Some moments don't get fixed. They just get survived. But because she wasn't the kind of person who walked away from things she'd broken. At least, she didn't want to be. Jordan was standing with Trent and 2 of Marcus Bellamy's business partners when he saw her coming. He recognized the posture immediately because it was completely different from before. The shoulders were lower. No champagne. No friends flanking her like a supporting cast. Trent saw her too. He went quiet. She stopped in front of Jordan. Can I have like 2 minutes? She said it to him specifically, not to the group. Trent made a small gesture to the others. They drifted away. He followed. And now it was just the two of them, standing near the edge of the dance floor while the rest of the room moved around them like water around two still stones. Kayla looked at him. He waited. I owe you an apology, she said. Her voice was steady, but that steadiness was costing her something, and it showed. Not a small one. I talked to you like you didn't belong here. I made assumptions about you based on what you were wearing, and I said it out loud in front of people, and I made sure you felt it. That was mean. It was wrong. I'm sorry. Jordan didn't react immediately. She held his gaze because she owed him that much. Not looking away was the least she could do. I'm not asking you to say it's fine, she continued, because it isn't. I'm not asking you to be cool with it. I just needed to say it. The music played softly. A photographer passed nearby without stopping. Jordan was quiet for long enough that it became genuinely uncomfortable. Venice, do you actually believe that? Or are you apologizing because you found out who my dad is? Kayla felt that land exactly where he'd thrown it. She didn't rush to answer. She actually thought about it, really considered it, turning the question over in her mind honestly instead of reaching for the easy, flattering answer. Both, she finally said. And I know that's not a great answer, but it's the honest one. Something shifted in his expression. Okay, he said. I believe you. The pause. And yeah, I forgive you. Kayla exhaled. She hadn't realized until that moment that she'd been holding her breath. Why? She asked. Because being angry about it doesn't do anything useful, Jordan said. And because you came over here when you didn't have to. You could have spent the rest of the night just avoiding me. A lot of people would have done exactly that. That's not how I was raised, she said. Me neither, he said. A pause opened between them. Not empty, full. Full of something that hadn't existed 20 minutes ago. Something that felt, strangely, like the beginning of mutual respect. Your dad, Kayla said quietly. I've watched him in interviews. He seems like the real thing. He is, Jordan said. He glanced down at his shirt for a second. He's also the reason I showed up tonight looking like this. Kayla frowned slightly. What do you mean? He made me do it. Every year, at least once, he makes me show up somewhere I'm supposed to be, in clothes that give nothing away. No name. No status. Nothing to hide behind. He looked back at her. He calls it the real test. Of what? Of the room. Kayla stood with that for a moment. What did the room do? Jordan looked at her steadily. You were there. She thought about that long after the wedding ended. Not just that night, but weeks later, in random quiet moments. Driving somewhere. Waiting for coffee. Sitting in a meeting where someone talked too long about something that didn't matter. You were there. For words that didn't need any others attached to them. Near the end of the night, when the crowd had thinned and the younger guests had migrated toward the bar, Derek Calloway found his son by the window again. How was it? He asked. Jordan considered this. Different this year. Different how? Someone actually came back and apologized. The pause. Genuinely, I think. Derek looked at him. You believe her? Yeah. I do. Derek was quiet for a moment. Then, what did you do? Forgave her, Jordan said. And told her why. Derek nodded slowly. He put his hand on Jordan's shoulder, the same way he had at the beginning of the night, and left it there for a moment. Good, he said. That was all. But it was enough. The last thing Kayla saw before she left the venue was the two of them standing by the window, looking out over the city skyline. Father and son. Same posture. Same quiet. Like stillness was something you could actually inherit, pass down through the years the way other families pass down money or last names. She got into the car, the driver pulled away from the curb, and the venue shrank in the back window until it disappeared. She thought about the room. About the way it had been organized entirely around what it could see, and completely blind to what it couldn't. About what it actually costs to look at someone, really look, instead of just clocking their outfit and deciding you already know the story. 3 weeks later, Kayla was back at the youth center in Midtown where she volunteered every other Tuesday. A kid came in late, 14 years old, oversized hoodie, headphones around his neck, sat in the back without making eye contact with a single person. Some of the other volunteers glanced at each other. The unspoken communication of adults deciding whether to engage or wait. Kayla pulled up a chair and sat next to him. "What's your name?" He looked at her sideways. Suspicious. Waiting for the catch, the angle, the moment the niceness revealed what it was actually after. "Dre," he said. "You good, Dre?" "Yeah." "Okay." She didn't push. She just stayed there. After about 10 minutes, he started talking. She never told anyone about what happened at the wedding. Not her friends. Not her family. She didn't post about it, didn't make it a piece of content about her personal growth arc. She just carried it, quietly, like something private that belonged only to her. Some lessons don't need an audience. The ones that actually change you usually don't. Here's what I want you to hold on to from this story. The most expensive thing in any room, anywhere, is never the chandelier. It's never the flower arrangements or the open bar or the designer labels. The most expensive thing in any room is perception. Specifically, the willingness to question your own. The courage to look at someone without your assumptions getting there first. That costs most people more than they're willing to pay. And the ones who do pay it? They walk away with something no price tag can touch. Jordan showed up in a white t-shirt on purpose. And in doing so, he revealed exactly who was in that room, not by what they wore, but by how they reacted to what he didn't wear. The test was never really about him. It was about everyone else. And Kayla, she failed the test. But then she did something rarer and harder than passing it in the first place. She acknowledged the failure, out loud, to the person she'd failed, without knowing whether it would cost her or pay off. She did it because it was right. Not because it was strategic. That's the thing about character. It doesn't show up when everything's easy and everyone's watching and the room is full of people who look just like you. It shows up in the quiet moments, when you're standing by the coat check in a dress that suddenly feels too bright, deciding whether you're the kind of person who goes back and says the hard thing, or the kind who just goes home and forgets about it by morning. She went back. That mattered. If this story hit differently than you expected, if it made you think about a room you've been in, a judgment you've made, or a moment where you had the chance to go back and say the hard thing, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more stories that actually mean something, stick around. There's a lot more where this came.